Welcome, CEOs. I am Hermione Olivia, and I invite you to cherish every opportunity to connect the dots. CEO Yourself was created to be a destination for motivation and to inspire you wherever you are in your journey to become the CEO of your life. Coming up on this week's episode of CEO Yourself.
When I sort of had this whole idea of why can't we have very clinical products that are almost kind of doctor prescription level in terms of actives and ingredients and performance, but in a really luxurious, beautiful way. We can use essential oils to give scent. We can create this pleasurable experience so your skincare becomes more than just a functional piece of your day. The visionary thinking piece is almost sort of thinking 100 steps ahead, having a very clear vision of something you're looking at and actually just figuring out how you get there. If you have an idea and you have that sort of very forward-thinking, visionary thinking, you almost have to hold on to that and have the tenacity, resilience and belief and self-belief to be able to sort of go forward and bash everything out of the way and basically get to it. And I kind of think there's always a way to do something, it's just how.
Sarah Chapman is London's most sought-after facialist and founder of Sarah Chapman London and the Skinesis Clinic. In this week's episode of CEO Yourself, we deep dive her CEO superpower, visionary thinking. Sarah, welcome to CEO Yourself.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here.
It's such an honour to have you. I am such a long-standing fan of you and the brand and of your entire team. You genuinely do the best facial in the world, I can say. Talk to us about how Sarah Chapman, the brand, came to be, how you developed such an extraordinary, groundbreaking product and service.
Interesting. It's quite a long time ago now. So I was doing facial. I worked for different skincare companies and then I was doing facials, and I could really see by just sort of observing clients kind of what they're looking for, what they needed for their skin, but also their behavior and how they talk about lifestyle and everything that was going on, that people were sort of moving away from the kind of traditional luxury kind of aromatherapeutic skincare. There was this real move into that cosmeceutical world. So if we think back sort of 20 years ago, it was when the first sort of doctors type brands came and the first very clinical products came to market, the first uses really of vitamin A and retinoids in skincare. And I could kind of see that the clients were starting to want more and more in terms of results. So less caring about the pampering element, but more about the results. But then what we were doing in the treatment room at that point was sort of mixing lots of luxurious textures. I used to get Italian floral waters and essential oils because I trained as an aromatherapist in my very early days, and kind of mixing those so that all the sort of sticky, clinical, doctor-led type products were kind of cocooned in these luxurious textures and smells and scents, so that actually you got a whole sense of pleasure and indulgence and luxury when you got a treatment that was really powerful and targeted. And I think that was kind of how I started in treatments, and it's kind of gone through, I suppose, the whole product range and all of our philosophy. So I guess our sort of philosophy really is thinking about the physiological aspects to skincare, but also the psychological aspects. So we always say we look after you and your skin, and that's two very different things. So when you use a product, when you come for a treatment, you feel totally indulged, pampered, happy, sort of treated in the most sort of cosseting and beautiful way, whether it's the application of a cleanser or whether it's actually coming for a treatment. But at the same time, you know you're getting incredible results because you've got like super science in your skincare and in your treatment. So I think it's this physiological, psychological, and also looking after people's skin for sort of real long-term skin health longevity. So everything that we do for the skin, we preserve the skin barrier. We're really protecting the skin. We're building from within. So it's not quick fixes. It's not trend-led. It's much more about how am I going to make you look fantastic even in 40 years' time. And I think that is really important. And I know we talk a lot now in the wellness space about longevity, but the skin sort of piece of that is something we've been doing for a long time.
You've just eloquently put the experience, which I would say, in my words, is if I have a facial at the Sarah Chapman Clinic, I look forward to it in a way I would look forward to a 5-star hotel massage. It is a true experience. It's an opportunity to switch off and go into a meditative space, but it is also active. I feel my skin is genuinely better after, but I'm not afraid to go straight to dinner. It's not so invasive that I am all red and blotchy. You have developed such an iconic brand. You have a celebrity clientele. You have almost verging on fanatic clientele, I would say. How did you develop such a loyal following in such an incredibly competitive landscape? What are the key elements of the brand that have allowed you to cut through?
That's really interesting. I think a lot of the things that we've just talked about, but also absolute integrity. Everything that we do, the client or customer comes first. We would never launch a product unless I genuinely believe it's the absolute best it can be. And believe me, people hate me for it. There are many times where the team will say, but it's amazing, the product is fantastic, it works, it's brilliant. And I say, but it doesn't have the magic. And we could get it a little bit better. And by doing that, we sort of always say, you know, we strive for perfection. And if we don't reach perfection and we strive for it, we're always going to reach excellence. And so that integrity piece, the real attention to detail. And I never realized that I had that sort of slightly obsessive nature. That came through doing the products. And I have an absolute eye for real detail. And I try and sort of instill that in everybody in the business as well. So we'll see a tiny thing and we'll make sure that it's right. And I think that flows through in the products. It flows through in every treatment that we do. And people feel that. And I have a lot of people that kind of say to me, you know, when I use your products, I feel you in the bottle almost. And I think that's very different from lots of products out there, lots of skincare and lots of ranges. And I think the fact that I'm still so involved in every decision and every element of the business, that hasn't changed. So even though facials wise, it's been over 20 years, products launched 15 years ago, there is still that complete attention to detail in everything. So somebody knows that when they get something from us, they trust it. And I hear that word used so many times. And recently, actually, we were having a chat with a group of people and just sort of saying, you know, what does the brand sort of mean? And why do you love it? Or what? And everyone said, because we know if you do something, we trust it's going to be the best. And that trust piece was something that I suppose we've built over years of never letting people down and always doing the best we can and always putting customers first. And then the intelligence in all the formulations and the treatments obviously comes along with that.
You took the word out of my mouth. I was going to say, with your attention to detail and integrity, you've built trust. I know when I use one of your products that I can trust it, which is why I've loyally used the Ultimate Cleanse for many, many, many years. And any time I move away from it, I inevitably come straight back to it. Because it does feel like a luxurious moment in my day. Doing it in the bath at night, it almost feels like I'm putting on a beautiful mask or a moisturizer, but I know that it works. Talk to me about your original product line, which I believe are still some of your best sellers, and the new products that you've just recently launched.
Yeah, Ultimate Cleanse is, I'm like that about Ultimate Cleanse. It is just the most delicious cleanser, but it was one of the first products that we launched. So back in 2008, when I sort of had this whole idea of why can't we have very clinical products that are almost kind of doctor prescription level in terms of actives and ingredients and performance, but in a really luxurious, beautiful way. We can use essential oils to give scent. We can create this pleasurable experience so your skincare becomes more than just a functional piece of your day. And within that, there was Ultimate Cleanse, Overnight Facial, which is our number one product and has been for 15 years. So the fact that that sort of came right at the beginning and is still the number one in the range. Ultimate Cleanse is number 2, number 3, by the way.
I was going to say, what about my Ultimate Cleanse?
Yeah, it's way up there. And Eye Recovery, Age Repair and Dynamic Defense. That was the original core line. And actually, they're all in the top sort of 10 best-selling products still today because they were so forward-thinking in terms of the ingredients, the type of formulations, and they deliver results. So we have clients who've been coming to us for over 15 years, and they're still using those products. So we know they're delivering results, but it's also that experience moment that you have. Like you say, when you put your Ultimate Cleanse on, what a joy it is to use that product. And your skin is left cocooned and comforted. There's an amazing smell and aroma around you, but your skin is supple and soft and it's treated. It's not just cleansed.
I feel I get out of the shower or the bath and my skin is like
Yeah.
stripped and
tight and
yeah,
dry.
It's horrible. So you're quickly applying all these other products. But with that, I could almost, tell me probably not the right thing to do, but I could almost cleanse and go to bed. I don't feel I need to apply many more products.
Yeah, because it's purely an oil base. So you've got all of the botanical oils, you've got omega-rich oils that's anti-inflammatory. You've even got peptides and vitamin A in there. So there are a lot of ingredients that start your cell receptors sort of waking up to active ingredients, even in the step of your cleanser. And actually, it's the cleanser that we use at the beginning of every facial. So if you came into me sort of 20 and you had acne, or you came into me and you were 80 and your skin was sort of parched and dehydrated and losing elasticity, and anything in between, we would massage you with Ultimate Cleanse at the beginning of a facial. So it's a great, great product to use on a daily basis. And people become quite addicted like you. And the same with overnight facial. So there's something very special and unique about the products. And I was talking to some industry leaders the other day who just said, you know what, your products are totally unique. Even though we work with brands across the world, there is nothing that's like yours. And that for me is such a great accolade, because we work so hard to make those products so unique, but also to make them deliver results. And our sort of next wave of this sort of visionary formulation and innovation is the clinical line, which we just launched back at the end of May. There is very specific technologies put into these products that we've actually found in the pharmaceutical world, which was originally developed for cancer drug delivery. So it's very technical formulations that have been adapted to use in cosmetics. So we can take active ingredients like your retinoids deep down into the skin at lower concentrations, but deliver the same amount to the cell as if you had a higher concentration in a standard formula. So much less surface disruption, much less barrier interference, which we're seeing a lot of, and a lot of barrier disruption with people. So a very smart thinking way to get those kind of actives we know about deeper into the skin without disrupting the skin barrier. And these products we launched back in May. So it's 3 to 4 months? Have won 4 awards already. Every single product has won an award, and one has won 2, which is the vitamin C serum. So it took about 4 years to create these products. So when something like that happens, and we had a client come into the clinic the other day who had said that she's using the R&R Glow, which is a sort of recovery barrier support cream, lots of ceramides, lipids, anti-inflammatories, and real skin support, and how much it changed her rosacea. It literally makes your heart sing. You're like, oh my gosh, look at what this has done for this person who feels so good about their skin. And I think that to be able to do that through treatments and do that through products is a joy.
Congratulations, and these accolades are so well deserved. What I'm most excited by, though, is that you were able 15, 20 years ago to have the foresight and to have the visionary thinking to develop these products that still stand out in a globally competitive space. Talk to me about visionary thinking and why you chose it as your CEO superpower.
I think I somehow have this whole way of thinking, and I guess that's the entrepreneurial part of it. My mind is always thinking of a new idea or what we could do next, and I think that when I started to create the products, it was very hard to do the original line. I'd never created products before, but I knew what I knew about products from working with different skincare companies. I then took myself and trained in cosmetic science so that I could understand formulations. And then I had my whole sort of hands-on experience through treatments. And I had a very clear vision as to what the products needed to be. I knew the color from the beginning. I knew the actives. And I just almost set that thinking and didn't let anything get in the way. And I think there's a lot of opinions, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of noise around us all the time, and especially now compared to then. And I think that sort of visionary piece of it was just because I had such a clear direction, and I sort of ignored the bits around me. Like people said to me, you can't call overnight facial. People won't understand what it is. It needs to be something simple, like it's a night moisturizer or something, which now everybody says, what a genius name, and it's our number 1 product. And people said, don't do the packaging, the taupe that I wanted. I had this jumper and I had a piece of ribbon, and it was like, this is kind of how I want the product to look. They said it's too masculine. You can't possibly. And now it's kind of iconic, and we sort of own the taupe colour in the skincare space. And people say to me all the time, it looks so nice in my bathroom. It's so nice to have it in my home. So I think that the visionary thinking piece is almost sort of thinking 100 steps ahead, having a very clear vision of something you're looking at, and actually just figuring out how you get there. I worked for about 4.5 years on the first 6 products. I couldn't get what I wanted, and I was so clear. And because I'd done the cosmetic science training as well, I knew what was possible, but I couldn't go into a lab and actually formulate it. I hadn't done to that degree of understanding, but I knew how to talk to the chemists, and I knew that when they said to me, well, you can't put that and that in it, I knew it wasn't right. Or if they said, you can put vitamin A in, but you can only put it in such and such %. And I wanted it higher because I knew that was what was going to get me the results on the skin. So actually, in the end, I went to the US and I worked with a laboratory near San Francisco in order to get my first 6 products. And that was probably the 5th chemist and business that I'd worked with to try and get them. So I think if you have an idea and you have that sort of very forward-thinking, visionary thinking, you almost have to hold on to that and have the tenacity, resilience and belief and self-belief to be able to sort of go forward and bash everything out of the way and basically get to it. And I kind of think there's always a way to do something. It's just how. How do you do it? It may not be a straight line. It might be a very windy road, but there's ways of getting there always.
What's coming through for me as well is that the trust that you have in yourself, like you totally trusted your vision, you believed in yourself wholeheartedly, then transcends into the product, the service, and then the wider community. It's amazing how that trust with yourself has then developed such a trusted brand.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I don't think I ever thought in those early days that it wasn't going to happen or that I couldn't do it. And that's not from having an ego or anything like that. It was more about, it was so strong, this vision that I had. I actually tried to ignore it for a few years because I thought, I have no idea. I've never run a business. I don't really know anything about that. But it was this thing in my head and it just wouldn't go away. It just sort of almost got clearer and clearer and clearer. And I think that just then drove me to do it, that there wasn't really anything that got in the way. If something didn't work, I thought, right, okay, how do I find out somebody else that could do it, or how can I research? I'm a big believer that you never stop learning. You should always be learning. You should always be inquisitive. You should have that curiosity driving every decision. And also to not kind of do the normal, because if you do the normal, what everybody's doing, you're never going to innovate. So you kind of have to be thinking outside your space in order to be able to do it. And I know when I was working on the packaging, we were looking at drinks packaging, you know, alcoholic drinks and the way that things were packaged and things like that. Because if I looked just directly at skincare, I probably would have been led to do something that was slightly more the normal in skincare. And actually we worked with a designer to do the packaging who hadn't really done any beauty. And I think that you just have to break out from the normal kind of path. And because I hadn't worked in a corporate, I hadn't worked for any of the big sort of skincare houses or anything like that, I didn't have a sort of path that I was trying to follow. I was literally creating my own because I had no idea. I knew about product, I knew about formulations, and I knew about skin, but I didn't really know any of the other pieces of it. So that I've kind of learned as I've gone along.
I love that, and it's so inspiring for the listener out there who has the vision. What would you say to the listener who doesn't have the vision? Because I think that's the hardest part is if you don't know where you want to go, how do you get there? How do you think you were born with this vision, or where did it come from? Do you know?
I think it came from passion in the industry. I love the industry. I loved what I was doing. I had a real interest and obsession with product, which I don't know where it came from, but it was something that happened. I didn't kind of force it. It's and I think if you love what you do, you know, people always say if you love what you do, you can work 24 hours a day, and all of those things don't really matter because you're loving what you do. I was really in that space. So working with skincare, looking at formulations, for me, trying to get a formulation right and being on the sort of the 50th sample and still trying didn't really feel like a chore. It was more of a challenge. It was more of a a sort of insightful time as opposed to anything else. And I think if somebody doesn't have necessarily a vision that's really specific to them, I don't think you can really force it. I don't think you can kind of say, well, I need to create a vision to do X, Y, Z, because I think that then it's not authentic. It's not real. So you can still make something happen. But I think if it comes from an original place of real sort of passion and kind of desire and that real clarity, there isn't anything else that gets in the way. And I don't know where it came from. I don't necessarily have entrepreneurial parents or family. They're very hardworking. Quite often they had 2 jobs on the go at one time, but not self-employed kind of visionary or entrepreneurial thinking. So I was very rebellious at school. I was very naughty.
That's very unexpected.
I now say to my dad, well, hey, that's because I was entrepreneurial. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just because I was naughty. It's obviously because I was wanting to do things a different way.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think it has probably been in me for a long time.
That's brilliant advice. And I think for me personally, I had followed most recently in my career the steps that I felt I should take from an ego, salary, title perspective, how I'd be received, and was unhappy. And I went back to exactly that. What am I passionate about? What do I love to do in my free time? And it was researching inspirational women and reading inspirational and motivational books. And that's how this came to be. And it's true. If for the listener out there who doesn't exactly know where they want to go, going back to what you do maybe in your spare time or what lights you on fire, where you feel passionate and alive, that's probably where the idea might stem from.
Yeah, and I think don't try to make it, don't try to sort of maybe look at something else and think, well, these are the steps that should be done in life. These are the steps that should be done in a career. Because actually now more than ever, anything goes and anything is possible. So you kind of, is it when you're in your spare time, you're doing something that's totally different to your work life, but actually that makes you happy, then try and maybe find something around that can become your sort of goal and your piece to strive for.
Because as you said, then the hurdles, which there inevitably will be, become exciting challenges to overcome, and you move into flow more easily and things just start to snowball and happen.
Yeah, and I think that, challenges are not a bad thing. Problems are not a bad thing. I think they make you think differently, and thinking differently enables you to really go into a different space. Whereas if everything was easy and everything just sort of fell into place and became quite formulaic, you would probably end up doing things the way everybody else does, because there wasn't anything that drove you to do it in a different sort of way. And I think, when you set up a business, I set up on my own. I've never had investment. It's all been self-funded through the 2 businesses. And so I've really been able to decide what I want to do, when I want to do it, and do it in any which way that I want to. And I think I've been very lucky from that perspective, because it's meant that we can keep the things that really mean a lot to me at the very forefront. And that is the things we talked about before in terms of the customer. I don't want somebody to come and spend £50, £100, whatever, and have something they're disappointed in, because that would disappoint me. I want somebody to say what you've said, which is, oh my gosh, I love the product, and every day I put it on, it makes me feel good, because immediately I light up inside and that makes me feel good. So it's all 2 ways. And so you've got to find the things for you that give you that kind of little gut light up and make you feel sort of excited and passionate, because life's short, right? So you've got to do something that you want to do.
It's so true. So our CEO Yourself principles are vision plus strategy plus lifestyle equals success, becoming the CEO of your life. So it's extraordinary today that you've chosen visionary thinking, but I want to go into the practical strategic moves and the work that you've done to bring it to life, because it's one thing to have a vision, but I'm very sure even in perhaps your rebellious way, you've had to work extremely hard to get to where you are today, and you've had to be very strategic in your moves. What would your advice be to the young woman listening today, young entrepreneur, maybe someone who wants to make a major career pivot? What practical advice would you give to young women about bringing that vision to life?
You have to combine the vision with action to start with, don't you? Because we can all have dreams. And how many times you have a conversation with a friend or family or somebody who says, oh, I had that idea and now somebody else has done it. So you have to put the action behind the vision in the first place. For me, I never take no for an answer, because if I had, I wouldn't have a product range, because I had so many people say it wasn't possible. Anything is possible. So you kind of never take no for an answer, and keep learning and keep curious. Because I think the minute that you stop doing that, you stop innovating, you stop creating. So you kind of need to have that sort of curiosity around you all the time, but also think about how you're going to make something happen, and then just do it. And I think take the fear away. I think that is so important. I had no fear. I don't know why, but I had no fear when I did the products. I had nothing to lose. So risk for me was just, it was almost a game. It's a risk, okay, so I'm going to do it because I'm so clear on what I want to do. And if it doesn't work, well, it doesn't work. I'll go and do something else again. So I think you have to try and get rid of the fear. And there are so many things in books and guidance that talk about that. But I genuinely think that's a really key thing, because there are so many sort of fearful things that stop us from doing what we want to do. And I think I can sense a difference for myself and in my business compared to now, compared to the beginning, because you have a lot more responsibilities. I have a lot more responsibilities now. I have a lot of people working with me. You know, you have different kind of responsibilities. So I'm less of a risk taker than I was at the beginning.
Really?
Because you have too many other things to consider. So in the early phase, if it's you and you have a vision, get rid of the fear. Don't listen too much to what other people say. Ask questions. Don't take no for an answer. And I would say just question. And also the other thing I think that's really important for people if they're sort of starting out on something is to never be embarrassed or afraid to ask a question. When I started doing the business and all the formulation work, there were so many sort of abbreviations and analogies of things and stuff that I had never heard of before. And so sometimes in a meeting with somebody, I would ask a question which they probably thought I was really stupid, but it was a basic thing. Like I didn't know, for example, what an MOQ was, which is a minimum order quantity, and it's what everybody talks about with a product, but I'd never come across it. So I think you have to ask, because if you don't do that, then you're never going to learn, and you need to learn and absorb like a sponge so that you can actually then take that and do what you want to do, and never feel that it's silly, and never feel that you shouldn't be asking.
I always say to myself, step into the fear and do it anyway. And I so often lately with CEO yourself have had to do things which are incredibly intimidating and nerve-wracking. But when I feel those nerves, I remind myself it's just excitement, because I'm on the right path and this is exciting and it's another level up and I just have to step into it and do it. So
that's so interesting. There is something about the actual physical action or something of nerves and excitement that's the same pathways or something. So actually, if you control it in another way by changing the way you think about it, you can control those. But likewise, I have to do a lot of things that I'm not particularly comfortable with. And you get more used to them, but actually you just have to push yourself. And quite often you just have to make yourself do something, and it's never as bad as you think it's going to be.
But a beautiful, humble reminder to hear it from someone like you who's at the top of their field and so successful, that you've had to overcome those feelings too. Because for me, where I'm just starting out, or the listener who's just starting out, it's amazing to know that other women have had to follow that path and step into the fear and make it happen.
Yeah, and I think everybody does. It doesn't matter how successful you are. I think you've always got to do that, because there's always going to be something that you're doing that you're not particularly comfortable with, or it could be public speaking, whatever it is. But there's always going to be something you're not comfortable with, but you're always going to do something new, because if you don't, you're not moving forward, and you're not sort of innovating, and you're not growing or developing as a person or as a business. But I belong to an amazing group called By Women Built, which I don't know if you've heard of. And it's a group of women, all female-founded brands. So anybody that has a product, no matter what it is. And it's the most engaging, supportive group. And I think that also if there's somebody at home thinking about doing something of their own, it's having people like-minded around you. And I talk a lot with the people in this, and some of them might have a drinks company or a food company or fashion or beauty. And every single person at every stage of those businesses has the fear and does things that they don't really feel comfortable doing, but they make themselves do them because actually it's that next step in either personal or professional growth. So I think that if somebody did feel that they weren't capable or they were nervous, just take that away, because that's every single one of us.
I have a feeling that you have an incredible support network at home and in your business that encourages and fosters that trust you have with yourself and with your brand. How would you encourage the listener to foster that kind of supportive community around them?
I think if you don't feel that you have them within your sort of family space or around you at home, there are so many people kind of around you that you can network with. So finding, if it's a particular industry, you can obviously find great groups within that sort of industry. There are so many ways to network nowadays that I think it's quite easy. And just find a few people that actually are quite like-minded that you can talk through stuff with. Hopefully you've got friends you can do that with. I talk less to my friends about my business than I did in the early days. And in the early days, it's probably all I talked about with them. But people don't mind, because also if you are passionate and excited, they're going to feel that. They want to help you. People do actually want to lift you and help you. They don't always want to knock you down. So I think it's just being a bit confident about what you're talking about. And I think it's also being really authentic and real. And I know we use those words so much now, but I think it's so true, because you can't pretend to be somebody that you're not. You will get found out, and you also won't be comfortable and happy. Like I have I suppose the trust in me, because I luckily have great parents who always encouraged me and led me to do whatever I wanted to do. And I think that as long as you have some form of trust in yourself, I do quite a lot of work with the Prince's Trust Women Supporting Women charity. And that's about taking young girls who've had a very disadvantaged start or things that have happened in their lives and trying to get them to a point where they have got that trust in themselves and they can go back out and they can go into the workplace. And I know people who've come out of those programs and they've set up their own businesses. So anybody can do it. It's just a case of having a little bit of belief in yourself, even if that's been taken away from you for whatever reason. Find something that you know is so right for you and then channel that and just stick to that. And also staying very true to it. Don't let people sway you either way away from it. You've got to sort of stay very true to what you are. I think that then you can pretty much do anything.
This entire episode has been one inspirational quote after the next. I don't know how I'm going to choose which ones to share. We're going to move towards closing now, unfortunately, because I feel like I could talk with you forever.
Me too.
I am very interested to hear, what is your vision for the brand next and the industry? What is your visionary thinking for what is to come for Sarah Chapman?
Lots of exciting new product ideas, because there always is those bubbling around, and continuing to evolve everything that we're doing, I think. But for me now, it's really looking on a sort of bigger global space and how we can take what we do. But the challenge always is keeping that authenticity, keeping the quality of everything that we do, whether it's through treatments or whether it's through products, and being able to kind of scale that up globally. Not long after the sort of COVID time, we introduced a medical suite into the clinic. So we have full dermatologists. So we really run from hands-on facials right the way through to clinical dermatology, all the machines in between and anything for your face. And I want to continue to evolve that so we're always ahead of the game. Is there a new technology that maybe supersedes something we use? Making sure that all our team always feel that they're kind of supported, that they're learning, that they're refreshed on a constant basis. We have therapists in the clinic that have been with us. Our longest was 10 years. So it's people that are with us a long time. We need to be able to feed and nurture that. But also we have a great amount of intelligence in there. So how can we take that maybe to other people that don't come to us in London? And just generally keeping the innovation, keeping ahead and not following trends. So I'm very sort of firm on, it doesn't matter if this is what's happening in the marketplace. It doesn't matter if 10 brands have launched a product which is focusing on X, Y, Z. If I don't feel that that's right, and we as experts don't feel that that's right or necessary, we won't put it into the range. And I think keeping that, but being able to grow, is going to be the key.
I can confirm that your team absolutely adore you and speak so highly of you in facials. So that should be something you're so proud of.
Thank you.
Sarah, what is your legacy piece of advice?
It's probably some of the things we've talked about, but it's kind of question. I think always be questioning, always be thinking, and don't think about now and what's the normal and what's being done. Actually think, how can the future look? Can I envisage the future? And actually letting go of all the stuff that's around us now and the sort of present moment and thinking really 10 steps ahead and then working out how you're going to go there.
I'm going to take that advice on myself. Thank you so much for being here for today and for your incredible advice and honesty. I cannot wait to see what comes next for the brand and to continue enjoying your incredible facials and products.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being
It's been
here.
such a pleasure.
It would mean the world to me if you would share today's episode with someone you feel would enjoy it. And don't forget to hit subscribe, like, and leave a comment.